He went to the maid's house to see why she didn't show up for work, but was shocked by what he saw. Michael Thompson was completely furious as he pounded on the door of the small apartment. His maid Melissa had disappeared 3 days ago without a single explanation, leaving his luxurious home in complete disarray. When she finally opened the door with a frightened expression, he knew something was terribly wrong. Behind her, in the back of the modest apartment, he spotted a wheelchair and a figure that made his world collapse. "Melissa, what the hell is going on? You vanished from work without a word," he shouted, pushing the door harder. "Mr. Michael, please, not now." She tried to close the door, but it was too late. He had already seen. There, sitting in the wheelchair, was an elderly woman with white hair whom he recognized instantly, even after all these years. It was his mother, Mrs. Margaret, whom he believed had passed away 15 years ago. "Mum," the word escaped his lips as a whisper. Melissa began to cry, covering her face with her hands. The woman in the wheelchair stared at him with empty eyes, showing no sign of recognition. "Please, Mr. Michael, let me explain," Melissa begged, but he had already pushed the door open and stepped inside. The place was simple, clean, but visibly struggling. The walls bore marks of dampness, and the furniture was old and worn. But what caught his attention most were the photos scattered around the room. Photos of him. Photos from his graduation, his childhood, the day he opened his first business. How is she here?" he murmured, still in shock. Melissa wiped her tears and took a deep breath. "Your mother never passed, Mr. Michael. She found out she had a degenerative disease and decided to pretend she was gone so she wouldn't burden your life." Michael felt his legs weaken. He leaned against the wall, trying to process the impossible truth. "That's a lie. I saw the death certificate. I attended the funeral." "It wasn't her, sir. It was all arranged. Your mother met a woman her age at the hospital who had lost her entire family. When that woman passed, your mother took her identity and pretended it was her who had died." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. The revelation hit Michael like a bomb. He looked at his mother, who still stared blankly, not recognizing him. "And you? How are you involved in all this?" he asked Melissa, his voice trembling with emotion. "I was a nurse at the hospital back then. Your mother asked me for a favor. She said she had a very ambitious son and didn't want to be a burden in his life. She begged me to take care of her, and I couldn't say no." Michael felt a mix of anger and sorrow overwhelm him. "So you lied to me all these years? Worked in my home, watched me grieve my mother's loss and never said a word. She made me promise, Mr. Michael. She said if I told you, it would be like breaking a mother's last wish to protect her son." He stepped closer to Mrs. Margaret, who sat quietly in the wheelchair. She wore a simple but clean and well-kept dress. Her hair was neatly combed. "Mom, it's me, Michael. Your son," he said softly, taking her hand. Mrs. Margaret looked at him for a moment, and for a second it seemed she might recognize him. But then she began screaming in fear. "Help! Who is this man? Melissa! Melissa, help!" Melissa rushed to her side and began humming a gentle tune, the same lullaby Michael remembered from his childhood. Slowly, Mrs. Margaret calmed down. "She doesn't recognize me," Michael murmured, his eyes filled with tears. "The disease has progressed a lot in recent years. There are days when she's doing well, recognizes some things, but most of the time she's like this." Michael looked around the apartment again. It was small, with just 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a tiny kitchen. Everything was tidy and clean, but it was obvious they were struggling financially. "How do you live here? What I pay you can't possibly cover all this and her care too." Melissa lowered her head, clearly embarrassed. I take on extra work. I clean houses on weekends, do odd jobs, and sometimes I sell things when I need money for medicine." "What kind of things?" She hesitated before answering. "Some jewelry my grandmother left me, a wedding ring my father gave me, things like that." Michael felt a lump in his throat. While he spent thousands of dollars on designer clothes and expensive dinners, the woman caring for his mother was selling the only family heirlooms she had. Just then, a neighbor appeared at the door. She was a woman in her 60s, looking concerned. "Melissa, dear, is everything all right?" I heard shouting. "Yes, Mrs. Evelyn, this is Mrs. Margaret's son." Mrs. Evelyn looked Michael up and down, noticing his expensive suit and luxury watch. "Ah, so you're the famous son who never shows up," she said, disapproval in her voice. "What do you mean, never show up?" Michael replied, clearly offended. "Melissa tells your mother every day that you visited. She makes up stories about how you went for walks together, how you brought flowers, how you said you loved her. All lies to comfort the poor woman." Michael turned to Melissa, who was flushed with shame. "You make up stories about me?" "Your mother gets very upset when she asks for you. So I tell her you came, that you're doing well, that you sent kisses, it calms her down." Mrs. Evelyn continued, "This girl is an angel, young man. I've seen her share her own food with your mother when money was tight. I've seen her stay up all night when your mother gets restless. And never ever have I heard her complain." Michael was overcome with deep shame. All these years he'd treated Melissa coldly, sometimes even with disdain, thinking she was just another hired help. Now he realized she'd sacrificed her own life to care for his mother. "Melissa, I need to understand something. Why did you do this? Why did you care for her all these years without telling me anything?" Melissa took a deep breath. "When I met your mother at the hospital, she was desperate. She cried every day because she didn't want to be a burden to you. She said you'd worked so hard for everything you had and that she couldn't ruin your dreams." She paused, looking at Mrs. Margaret. "One day, she showed me a photo of you graduating from college. The pride in her eyes was something I'd never seen before. She talked about you like you were the most important thing in the world. And when the doctors said she had a degenerative disease, that she'd need special care, she was devastated. But that doesn't explain why you agreed to care for her. I lost my mother when I was very young, cancer. I never got the chance to care for her in her final days. When I saw your mother there, so alone and scared, it was like I could do for her what I couldn't do for my own mother." Tears welled up in Michael's eyes. He'd judged Melissa as simple, uneducated, just a hired hand. Now he saw she had a heart far bigger than his. "And how did you manage to fake her death?" "It was easier than you'd think. The woman who'd passed had no family, no one to claim the body. Your mother had contacts at the hospital, people who helped. They switched identities and the wake was held with the other woman's body. I was at the wake. I saw the body." "You saw the body of a woman the same age, her face disfigured by an accident. It was impossible to recognize. Your mother was hidden in the hospital, being prepared to come live with me." The revelation left Michael even more shaken. He had wept over the coffin of a stranger while his real mother was alive, needing him. At that moment, Mrs. Margaret began to grow agitated. "Melissa, where's my son? He promised he'd come see me today." Melissa approached and gently stroked the elderly woman's hair. "He did come, Mrs. Margaret. He brought flowers and said he loves you very much." "Really? And where are the flowers?" Melissa quickly glanced around and picked up a small plant by the window. "Here they are. He said they're daisies, your favorite." Mrs. Margaret smiled, carefully holding the plant. "My son is so thoughtful. He's always been a special boy." Michael watched the scene with a broken heart. His mother was there, alive, but lost to a cruel disease that kept her from recognizing him. "Melissa, I need to see everything. I want to understand how you live, what her needs are." Melissa hesitated. "Mr. Michael, maybe it's better if—" "No, I want to see everything, now." She led him to the room where his mother slept. It was simple, but adapted for her needs. There was a hospital bed, blood pressure monitors, and a table full of medications. "She takes all these medicines?" "Yes, they're to control her illness, for joint pain, to help her sleep. They're very expensive." Michael picked up one of the bottles and saw the price. It was nearly $1,000 for a month's supply. "How many medications does she take?" 10 different ones. Some daily, others when she gets more agitated." He quickly did the math in his head. Just the medicines cost over $5,000 a month. The salary he paid Melissa was $1,500. How do you afford all this? Melissa opened a drawer and showed him several pawn receipts. Sometimes I pawn things. Other times I get help from people at church. And when it's really impossible, I let her go without some of the medicines. You let my mother go without medicine? Only the ones for pain, never the vital ones. But she suffers terribly without them. Michael sat on the edge of the bed, completely defeated. While he had spent money without a second thought, his mother endured pain because they couldn't afford her medications. Melissa, why didn't you ask me for help? Why didn't you break your promise and tell me everything? I tried many times, but every time I was about to speak, I remembered the desperation in your mother's eyes when she made me promise. And also, I was afraid you'd be angry and take her away from me. Take her away from you? Your mother is all I have now. Caring for her has given my life meaning like never before. I know it may sound strange, but I love her as if she were my own mother. Just then they heard Mrs. Margaret calling from the other room. Melissa, Melissa, where are you? They rushed back to the living room. Mrs. Margaret was standing by her wheelchair, gripping the wall for balance. Mom, what happened? Michael ran to steady her. Who are you? Get out of my house, she shouted, trying to push him away. Mrs. Margaret, calm down. This is a friend, Melissa said, helping her sit back in the chair. I don't like him. He has sad eyes. Melissa, where's my son? I want to see my Michael. Michael felt his heart shatter. His own mother was rejecting him, unaware he was the very person she longed to see. He couldn't come today, Mrs. Margaret, but he sent word that he loves you very much. He always says that. My son is the best son in the world. Did you know he owns a big company? He's very important. Michael looked at Melissa, who was trying to hold back her tears. She's still proud of you. Talks about you every day. But she doesn't know me anymore. Sometimes she has moments of clarity. They're rare, but they happen. Last time she was lucid for almost an hour. She talked about you, about when you were little, about how she dreamed of seeing you succeed. When was that? About 2 months ago. She even asked if you were happy. I said yes, that you had a good life. Michael sat on the small, worn-out couch, trying to process everything. Melissa, I need answers to some things. How did she end up with you when she left the hospital? She stayed hospitalized for 2 more weeks after the false passing. During that time, we made all the arrangements. When she was discharged, she came straight here. And how did you get this apartment? I lived with a friend, but she moved away. When she found out I needed a place to care for your mother, she let me stay here for a symbolic rent. And your family? Didn't your parents find it strange you had an elderly woman living with you? Melissa lowered her eyes. I don't have a family, Mr. Thompson. My parents passed when I was a teenager. I was raised by an aunt who's also gone now. Your mother is truly all I have. The loneliness in Melissa's voice struck Michael deeply. 2 women alone in the world caring for each other. And a boyfriend? Friends? Did you give up everything to take care of her? I had a boyfriend a few years ago, but he didn't understand why I spent so much time caring for a woman who wasn't even my relative. We broke up, and you never regretted it. Never. Caring for your mother taught me what true love is. Not romantic love, but selfless love. The kind that expects nothing in return. At that moment, Mrs. Margaret began to grow drowsy. Melissa, I'm sleepy. Can you help me? Of course, Mrs. Margaret. Let's go to the bedroom. Michael watched as Melissa helped his mother out of the wheelchair. She did it with such gentleness and care that it seemed natural, as if she'd done it thousands of times. Can I help? He offered. No, I don't want that man touching me, Mrs. Margaret protested. It's okay, Mrs. Margaret. He'll stay here in the living room. Michael was left alone in the room looking around. There was a small bookshelf with a few books, mostly about elderly care and degenerative diseases. There was also a thick notebook on the table. Curious, he opened it. It was a detailed journal of everything related to his mother. Melissa had recorded everything. What time she took her medicine, her mood, whether she'd eaten well, slept properly, or had any moments of clarity. The notes were written with care and affection. Today, Mrs. Margaret asked about Michael 3 times. I told her he'd called to check on her. She was happy and hummed his favorite song. Mrs. Margaret didn't want to eat lunch today. Said she wanted to wait for Michael to arrive. I made his favorite childhood dish and told her he'd asked for it. She ate everything. Hard night. Mrs. Margaret was restless and called for Michael for 2 hours. I sang the lullabies she used to sing to him as a child. She calmed down and fell asleep. Michael kept reading page after page of silent devotion, 15 years of care, recorded with love and patience. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. When Melissa returned to the living room, she found Michael crying over the notebook. You wrote everything down. All these years, every detail. I thought maybe one day you'd want to know how she spent all this time, or that she might regain her memory and want to remember. Melissa, I don't know what to say. I treated you badly all these years, and you were sacrificing your life for my mother. You didn't treat me badly. You just didn't know. No, I did. I called you lazy when you were late, complained when you looked tired, took my anger out on you. You were suffering too. Losing a mother is very hard. But she hadn't died. She was here, and I could have helped. Michael flipped through more pages of the notebook. There were notes about expenses, medicines they couldn't afford, nights Melissa stayed awake because she didn't have money to pay for a nurse. This one says you sold a wedding ring to pay for an emergency appointment. Melissa blushed. Your mother was in a lot of pain and I couldn't get an appointment through Medicare. The private doctor cost $300 and I only had $50. Was the ring important to you? It was my mother's, the only thing I had left of her, but Mrs. Margaret needed it more than I needed memories. Michael felt deep admiration for this woman. She had sacrificed even the memories of her own mother to care for his. Melissa, do you have any photos of your mother? She hesitated, then went to a small cabinet and brought out a single yellowed photo. This is the only one left. The rest I sold along with other things when I needed money for Mrs. Margaret's emergency surgery. The photo showed a young woman resembling Melissa, holding a small child. You sold photos of your own mother. Some people collect old photos. I got $100 for an entire album. It wasn't much, but it helped pay for part of the anesthesia. Michael couldn't believe the level of sacrifice this woman had made. She had literally given everything of herself to care for his mother. What surgery was it? Your mother fell in the bathroom and broke her hip. She needed urgent surgery, but there were no openings at the public hospital. I found a private doctor who agreed to do it for $5,000. I gathered the money by selling everything I had of value. And if you hadn't gotten the money, she would have been bedridden forever in terrible pain. I couldn't let that happen. At that moment, they heard Mrs. Margaret calling from the bedroom. Melissa, Melissa, I'm scared. They rushed to the room. Mrs. Margaret was sitting on the bed, staring fearfully at the corners. What's wrong, Mrs. Margaret? There's someone in the room. A strange man. There's no one here but us, dear. Yes, there is. He's right there in the corner looking at me. Melissa hugged Mrs. Margaret gently. It must just be a bad dream. I'll turn on the light so you can see no one's here. When the light came on, Mrs. Margaret calmed slightly. Melissa, where's my son? He promised he'd take care of me when I got old. Michael stepped forward slowly. Mom, I'm here. It's me, Michael. Mrs. Margaret studied him for a few seconds. For a moment it seemed she might recognize him. Michael, my son. Yes, Mom, it's me. She reached out hesitantly. When he took her hand, she examined it carefully. You have my Michael's hands, but you're too old to be my son. My Michael is just a boy. I grew up, Mom. I became an adult. No, you're lying. My Michael is 10 years old. Where is he? What did you do to my boy? She grew agitated again. Melissa quickly grabbed some medicine and a glass of water. Mrs. Margaret, take this. It'll help you calm down. I don't want medicine. I want my son. He's right here. Look. Melissa pointed to an old photo of Michael as a child on the nightstand. Oh, yes. There's my beautiful boy. But where is he? I want to hug him. He went to buy you a present. He'll be back soon." Mrs. Margaret calmed and took the medicine. In just a few minutes, she was asleep again. Michael and Melissa returned to the living room in silence. "How do you handle this every day?" "At first, it was very hard. I cried every day seeing her suffer like this. But I learned that every moment of clarity, every smile, every hug she gives is worth the struggle." "And when does she have those moments of clarity?" "It's impossible to predict. Sometimes she wakes up completely normal, remembering everything. Other times, in the middle of a conversation, she suddenly becomes lucid for a few minutes." "And what does she say when she's lucid?" "Always about you. She asks if you're okay, if you're happy, if you've started a family. She wants to know if you still like dark chocolate and if you still have nightmares." "She remembers my nightmares?" "She remembers everything from your childhood. She says you were afraid of the dark and that she would stay awake singing until you fell asleep." Michael smiled sadly. He really did have nightmares as a child, and his mother would always calm him by singing. "What else does she remember?" "She remembers you loved helping her in the kitchen, that you dreamed of having your own company, that you promised to take care of her when she got old. She always says she's proud of the man you've become." "Even without knowing how I turned out?" "To her, you're perfect. No matter what happens, you'll always be her special boy." Michael felt a deep guilt. His mother idealized him, but the reality was that he had become a cold person, focused only on work and money. "Melissa, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Didn't you ever want your own life? To marry, have children?" "Of course I did. But when you choose to care for someone like this, you know you're giving up a lot. And honestly, I don't regret it. But you're still young, you could start over." "Mrs. Margaret doesn't have much time left, Mr. Michael. The disease is progressing. Every day she gets a little more confused, a little more fragile. I won't abandon her now." "What do you mean she doesn't have much time?" "The doctors said the disease is in an advanced stage. Maybe a year, maybe 2. It's impossible to know for sure." The news left Michael devastated. He had already lost 15 years with his mother, and now he found out there might only be 1 or 2 years left. "Why didn't you tell me this before? I could have spent more time with her." "And what would you have done? Left your company? Changed your life to care for her?" The question caught Michael off guard. He truly didn't know if he would have done it. I don't know. That's why your mother didn't want to tell you. She knows you. She knew you'd feel obligated to care for her, and it would ruin your life. But it's my duty to take care of her." "Duty isn't love, Mr. Michael. Your mother wanted you to be happy and successful, not to sacrifice yourself for her." Just then, Michael's phone rang. It was about an issue at the company that needed his immediate attention. "I have to take this," he said, stepping out onto the small balcony. Melissa was left alone in the living room, staring at the bedroom door where Mrs. Margaret slept. She hadn't told Michael everything. She hadn't told him the doctors had given an even shorter timeline. She hadn't told him she herself was getting sick from all the stress and work. She hadn't told him she sometimes thought about giving up. When Michael returned, she had prepared tea. "Sorry, it was something urgent at the company. I imagine your life is very busy." "Yeah, but that's no excuse. My mother should be a priority." They sat in silence for a few minutes, sipping tea. "Melissa, I want to know about the last 15 years. I want to know everything, how she lived, the good and bad moments. It would be a very long conversation." "I have time," Melissa began to tell him. She spoke about the early years, when Mrs. Margaret was still relatively well and could do some things on her own. She talked about how she loved to cook and always made too much food, hoping Michael would show up to eat. She told about the day Mrs. Margaret had her first severe episode, getting lost inside her own apartment. About the night she screamed for Michael until her voice gave out. About the times she refused to eat because she wanted to wait for her son. There was a time when she became very aggressive. She'd yell at me, call me a liar, say I'd done something to you. Those were very difficult months. How did you handle it? I researched the disease a lot, talked to other caregivers. I learned the aggression was part of the illness progressing, not something personal against me. And when she got better, she never fully recovered. But I learned to handle the episodes better. I found that music calms her, that talking about you makes her happy, that certain routines soothe her. Michael kept listening as Melissa recounted details of the 15 years he'd missed. Each story left him more moved and more guilty. Does she still like the same things as before? She still loves dark chocolate, still enjoys classical music, still lights up when she sees flowers. Some things never change. What does she enjoy doing most now? Looking at your photos and listening to stories. I've made up hundreds of stories about you over the years, about trips you took, people you met, successes you achieved. What kind of stories? That you married a beautiful woman and had 2 children, that you bought a house in the countryside where she could visit, that you always talk about her with great pride to your friends. You made up that I have a family. She'd get sad thinking you were alone. So I created an imaginary family for you. A wife named Sarah and 2 kids, Jacob and Emma. And she believes it? Completely. Sometimes she asks when she'll meet her grandkids. I always make up an excuse that they're traveling or studying. Michael laughed sadly. So I have a family that doesn't even exist. To her, that family is real and it makes her happy. Just then they heard Mrs. Margaret stirring in her room. Melissa went to check and came back worried. She has a fever. That's not a good sign. What should we do? I'll give her something to bring it down and we'll keep an eye on her. If it doesn't improve, she'll need to go to the hospital. And if she has to go, how much does it cost? She has Medicare, but sometimes the wait is too long. When it's urgent, I take her to a private hospital and pay what I can. Michael watched as Melissa cared for his mother. She checked her temperature, gave her medicine, changed her sweat-drenched clothes, applied cold compresses, all with a skill that spoke of years of experience. You learned how to do all this. I took some caregiver courses when I first started looking after her. I also learned a lot through practice. And when you get sick, who takes care of her? I can't afford to get sick. When I'm feeling bad, I take some medicine and push through. But you're human, Melissa. You must have limits. When you truly love someone, those limits stretch far beyond what you'd imagine. They spent the whole night tending to Mrs. Margaret. Her fever rose and fell several times. At times, she became delirious, talking to people who weren't there. "Michael, my son, you've come back," she said in the middle of the night, reaching out her arms. "I'm here, Mum," he answered, stepping closer. "You've grown so much. You're so handsome. How are my grandchildren?" Michael glanced at Melissa, who signaled for him to play along. "They're fine, Mum. Jacob's at school. Emma's learning to walk." "That's wonderful. When will you bring them to meet me?" "Soon, Mom. When you're feeling better." "I love you all so much. You're everything to me." "We love you too." Mrs. Margaret smiled and drifted back to sleep. Michael stood by the bedside, holding his mother's hand. She recognized me. The fever sometimes brings moments of clarity. Enjoy it while it lasts. How long does it last? It's unpredictable. Could be minutes or hours. They stayed there until dawn. Michael watched how Melissa attended to every detail, how she knew his mother's every reaction, how she anticipated her needs. When the sun rose, Mrs. Margaret woke without a fever, but also without recognizing Michael again. "Melissa, who is this man in my room?" "He's a friend, Mrs. Margaret. He came to help take care of you. I don't like him. He reminds me of someone who makes me sad." Michael felt a pang in his heart. Even without recognizing him, his mother still felt an emotional connection to him. "I'll make breakfast," he offered. "You don't have to." "I want to help. I need to learn how to care for her." Michael went to the small kitchen and tried to prepare something simple. He wasn't used to cooking, and everything seemed harder than he'd imagined. Melissa appeared in the kitchen. "Let me help. I can manage. Just tell me what she likes for breakfast." "She likes buttered toast, very sweet coffee with milk, and mashed banana. But everything has to be soft. She has trouble chewing." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Together, they prepared breakfast. Michael watched how Melissa cut the toast into small pieces, tested the coffee's temperature, and checked if the banana was properly mashed. "You've done this every day for 15 years. Every day. 3 meals a day, plus snacks in between. And you never got tired of it? Tired of caring for someone we love? That's impossible." When they brought breakfast to Mrs. Margaret, she was sitting in bed looking out the window. "What a beautiful day, isn't it, Melissa?" "Yes, Mrs. Margaret. The sun is lovely." "My son loves sunny days. When he was little, he always asked to play outside when it was sunny." "It's nice that you remember." "Of course I remember. A mother never forgets her children." Michael was moved to hear his mother speak of him with such affection. "Mrs. Margaret, what else do you remember about your son?" "Everything. I remember when he was born, his first steps, his first word. I remember his fears, his dreams, how loving he was." "Is he still loving?" "Of course he is. My Michael has the most beautiful heart in the world. He'll take care of me when I'm old." The irony of the situation stung Michael. His mother was certain he would care for her, but in reality she had faked her own death to avoid burdening him. After breakfast, Melissa gave Mrs. Margaret her medicine and helped her bathe. Michael offered to help, but his mother refused to let a stranger assist her. While Melissa tended to his mother, Michael explored the apartment further. In Melissa's room, he saw how simply she lived. A single bed, a small wardrobe with few clothes, and a desk that doubled as a workspace. On the desk were unpaid bills, medication receipts, and a notebook listing side jobs she took on. Mrs. Wilson's house cleaning, $80. Office deep cleaning, $150. Neighbors' childcare, $50. Michael realized Melissa worked nearly every day, even weekends, just to cover expenses. He also found a folder with his mother's medical records, reports, test results, prescriptions, all organized chronologically, showing the progression of her illness over the years. One recent report caught his attention. It stated that Mrs. Margaret's condition was deteriorating rapidly and that she would need even more intensive care in the coming months. When Melissa finished taking care of Mrs. Margaret, Michael called her over to talk. "I saw the most recent medical report. Why didn't you tell me her condition is getting worse?" Melissa sighed. "Because I didn't want to scare you, and also because there isn't much more we can do beyond what we're already doing." "But it says here she'll need special equipment, more medication." "I know, I'm trying to figure out how to get all that. How much will it cost?" "About $10,000 a month, between equipment, new medication, and maybe a nurse to help at night." "And how are you planning to get that money?" "I don't know yet. Maybe take on more jobs, maybe sell some things." "What things?" "You've already sold everything of value." Melissa was silent for a moment. "I thought about selling the apartment." "But isn't this apartment yours?" "Not officially. It's in my friend's name, but she told me I could sell it if I needed to. It's probably worth around $50,000. "And where would you live?" "I haven't really thought that through yet. Maybe find a smaller, cheaper place." Michael realized Melissa was willing to put herself on the street to keep caring for her mother. "Melissa, this is crazy. You can't be homeless." "Mrs. Margaret needs the care more than I need a place to live." "But without a proper place, how will you take care of her?" "I'll find a way, I always do." Melissa's determination impressed and at the same time worried Michael. She was willing to sacrifice literally everything. Just then, Michael's phone rang again. It was his secretary, telling him he had an important meeting in an hour. "I have to go," he said reluctantly. "Of course. Thank you for coming." "Melissa, this isn't over. We'll talk more about all this." "Mr. Thompson, please, don't take her away from me. I know now that you know everything, you might want to take her somewhere better, but I won't take her away from you. At least not now. I need to understand the whole situation better first." "Thank you." "And Melissa, until I come back, if she needs anything at all, you call me." "Understood." "Understood." Michael said goodbye, but he couldn't stop thinking about everything he'd discovered the whole way to the office. When he arrived, he tried to focus on work, but his mind was completely elsewhere. Every time he closed his eyes, He saw his mother's face, unrecognizable, and Melissa sacrificing everything for someone who wasn't even family. During the meeting, he was so distracted his partners noticed. "Michael, are you okay? You seem worried about something." "I'm fine, just some personal matters. Do you want to reschedule the meeting?" "No, let's continue." But he couldn't focus. All the important decisions he usually made with ease now seemed insignificant compared to what he'd learned. After the meeting, he stayed alone in his office, looking out the window at the city. His company was on the 20th floor of a commercial building, and he could see part of the city from above. He thought about how his life had changed in just 24 hours. Yesterday, he was a successful businessman who had lost his mother 15 years ago. Today, he discovered his mother was alive, sick, being cared for by his own maid in poor conditions. He picked up the phone and called Melissa. "How is she?" "She's okay. Ate well, took her medication. Now she's napping." "And you? How are you?" "I'm fine, Mr. Thompson." "Melissa, I'd like to come by again tonight. Can I?" "Of course. But maybe it's better to call ahead. Sometimes she gets more agitated at night." "That's fine. I'll call before I come." "Mr. Thompson?" "Yes?" "Thank you for not being angry with me. I know I lied to you for years." "You didn't lie, Melissa. You just kept a secret that wasn't yours to tell." After hanging up, Michael tried to work but couldn't. He decided to leave early and spend the rest of the day thinking about everything he had discovered. He drove aimlessly through the city, trying to process his emotions: anger, sadness, guilt, admiration, confusion. All of it swirled in his mind. He stopped at a mall and went into a bookstore, searching for books on degenerative diseases and elderly care. He wanted to better understand his mother's condition. He also stopped by a pharmacy and asked about the medications he'd seen in Melissa's apartment. The prices were indeed high, confirming what she had said. By late afternoon, he called Melissa. "Can I come over now?" "You can. She just woke up from her afternoon nap." "How is she?" "She's okay. She asked about you a few times." "She asked about me?" "Yes. She said she missed you and wanted to know when you'd visit." Michael smiled sadly. His mother missed him, even though she didn't know he had been there the night before. When he arrived at the apartment, Melissa greeted him at the door. "How was your day?" she asked. "Hard. I couldn't focus on anything." "I can imagine. It must be so difficult to process all of this. How did you keep this secret for so long? At first it was terrible. I almost told you many times, but over time I learned to live with it." "And you never regretted it?" "Taking care of her. Never. Not telling you. Sometimes, especially when I see how much you're hurting." They walked in and found Mrs. Margaret sitting in the living room, looking through photo albums. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Margaret." "Good afternoon. You came back. Melissa said you're my son's friend." "That's right. He talks about you a lot." "Really? What does he say?" "That he loves you very much and is so proud to be your son." Mrs. Margaret beamed. "My Michael is the best son in the world. Do you want to see pictures of him?" "Of course." She turned the album page by page, photos of Michael as a baby, a child, a teenager. She remembered every moment captured in them. Here he was, 2 years old. He talked so much, always so smart. He looks like he was a happy child. He was the happiest boy in the world, always laughing, always playing, and so affectionate. He gave me kisses and hugs all the time. Michael felt tears in his eyes, remembering those days. He really had been a happy child, and his mother had been the center of his happiness. "Here he is graduating from college," she said, showing a photo of him in a cap and gown. "You must have been so proud." "It was the happiest day of my life. Seeing my son graduate, fulfill his dream of starting a business. And he succeeded, didn't he?" "He did. My Michael is a very successful businessman. He has a big, important company." "You must be so proud." "I am. But do you know what I'm proudest of?" "What?" "The man he became. He's honest, hard-working, loving. He has a good heart." Michael had to turn away to hide his tears. His mother had an idealized image of him, Unaware, he had become cold and distant. "Mrs. Margaret, can I ask you something?" "Of course. What would you most want to say to your son if he were here right now?" She thought for a moment. "That I love him more than anything in life, that I'm so proud of him, and that he doesn't need to worry about me because I know he has an important life to take care of." "What if he wanted to take care of you?" "He doesn't need to. He's already given me the greatest joy a mother can have, seeing her son successful and happy. That's enough for me." Michael couldn't take it anymore and stepped out onto the balcony, where he wept freely. Melissa followed him. "Are you okay?" "I'm not okay at all, Melissa. My mother thinks I'm a good person, but I'm not. I've become the exact opposite of what she imagines." "Why do you think that?" "Because I'm cold, selfish, only think about work and money. I don't have real friends, I don't have family, I don't help anyone." "But you can change." "Can I? At 38? After a whole lifetime of being like this?" "Of course you can. It's never too late to change." "And how would I change?" "Start by taking care of those you love." They went back inside, where Mrs. Margaret was still looking at the photos. "Melissa, is it time for my evening medicine?" "Yes, Mrs. Margaret." "And that man? Is he staying?" "I don't know." "Do you want him to stay?" "He seems like a good person. And he has sad eyes like someone who needs kindness." Michael was surprised by his mother's perception, even in her confused state. "Can I stay for dinner?" he asked Melissa. "Of course, but I don't have much to offer." "I'll bring the food." "What does Mrs. Margaret like?" "She enjoys simple food, rice, beans, tender meat, vegetables." Michael left and returned with enough food for several days, not just dinner, but ingredients for the next meals. During dinner, he watched how Melissa helped his mother eat. She cut the food into small pieces, checked the temperature, and was patient when she ate slowly. "Mrs. Margaret, is the food good?" "Yes, it is. Thank you." "You're welcome. Would you like anything else?" "I want my son to come have dinner with me. It's been a while since we've eaten together." "He'll come soon. He's just finishing some important work." "My Michael works so much. Sometimes I worry he doesn't rest enough. I'm sure he takes care of himself." "I hope so. I want him to live a long, happy life." After dinner, they sat in the living room. Mrs. Margaret asked to listen to music, and Melissa put on a classical CD. "This music reminds me of my Michael," she said. "When he was little, I used to sing him to sleep." "Can you sing now?" "Of course." She began humming a soft melody. It was the same song Michael remembered from his childhood, the one his mother sang to chase away his nightmares. He closed his eyes and for a moment was transported back to his childhood when he felt safe and loved in his mother's arms. When she finished singing, it was time for her nighttime medicine. Melissa brought a small cup with several colorful pills. "So many pills," Michael remarked. "Yes, there are a lot. But they're necessary so she doesn't feel pain and sleeps well. And if she doesn't take them, she gets restless, feels joint pain, and can't sleep." Mrs. Margaret took all the medicine without complaint. She was used to the routine. "Melissa, I'm tired. Can you help me to bed?" "Of course, Mrs. Margaret." "Can the young man stay? I like his company." "If he wants to stay, he can." "I'll stay," Michael said. Melissa helped Mrs. Margaret up and took her to the bathroom, then to the bedroom. Michael watched the whole process, helping her brush her teeth, change clothes, and settle into bed. "Good night, Mrs. Margaret." "Good night, dear. Thank you for taking such good care of me." "Always, Mrs. Margaret, always." When they returned to the living room, Michael was thoughtful. "She thanked you for taking care of her." "She always does, every day." "And that doesn't move you?" "Deeply. That's why I could never leave her." They talked late into the night. Michael asked many questions about the daily routine, his mother's special needs, and the everyday challenges. "Melissa, can I sleep here tonight, even on the couch?" "You can, but it'll be uncomfortable." "It doesn't matter. I want to be close to her." During the night, Michael woke up several times. Once because his mother was talking to herself in her room, another time because Melissa got up to check on her. In the morning, he woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Melissa preparing breakfast. Good morning, how did you sleep? Fine. And how was her night? Peaceful. She only woke up once, asking for you. For me? Yes. She said she dreamed about you and wanted to know if you were okay. Michael felt his heart tighten. Even in her sleep, his mother was thinking of him. During breakfast, Mrs. Margaret was more confused than the day before. Melissa, who is this man? He's a friend of ours, Mrs. Margaret. Do you remember him? No, I don't. Does he live here? No, he's just visiting. And my son, where's my Michael? He's at work, he'll be back soon. I want him to come back, I miss him. Michael had to leave the table to avoid crying in front of her. In the kitchen, Melissa found him. Some days are worse than others. Yesterday was a good day. How do you know if it'll be a good or bad day? I've learned to recognize the signs. When she wakes up more confused, when she forgets basic things, I know it'll be a hard day. And what do you do on those days? I'm more patient. I explain things more often. I sing more songs. I show her more photos. After breakfast, Michael said he needed to go to work, but would return that evening. Mr. Michael, can I tell you something? Of course. Thank you for being here. It's been a long time since I had someone to share this burden with. The burden of taking care of her alone. Sometimes it's very hard, very lonely. You've never told anyone about this. Who would I tell? I don't have family, I don't have close friends. What about the church you mentioned? They're good people, but they have their own problems. I can't keep bothering them. Michael realized Melissa had carried this weight completely alone for 15 years. Melissa, you're not alone anymore. Now I know everything and we'll take care of her together. Together? Yes. You teach me how to care for her, and I'll help with whatever you need. Tears welled up in Melissa's eyes. Really? Really? My mother is my responsibility, not yours. But it's a shared responsibility now. I love her too. On his way to work, Michael thought deeply about everything happening in his life. In 2 days, his whole world had turned upside down. At the office, he tried to focus, but it was difficult again. His priorities were changing fast. During lunch, he researched home care, medical equipment, and private nurses. He wanted to understand all the options available to improve his mother's quality of life. He also called his personal doctor and asked about specialists in degenerative diseases. He wanted a second opinion on his mother's condition. In the afternoon, Melissa called. Mr. Michael, Mrs. Margaret has been asking for you a lot today. She's more restless than usual. Do you want me to come now? If you can, I'm on my way. He cancelled all his afternoon meetings and went straight to the apartment. He found his mother in her wheelchair, clearly agitated. Melissa, Melissa, where's my son? Why hasn't he come to see me? Mrs. Margaret, calm down. He's here now. Where? I don't see him. It's me, Mom, I'm here. She looked at him closely. You're not my son. My son is a blonde boy with blue eyes. I grew up, Mom. I'm an adult now. No, you did something to my boy. Where is he? She began crying desperately. Melissa tried to calm her, but it wasn't working. What do I do? Michael asked, frantic. Sometimes these episodes pass on their own, other times she needs a sedative. And if that doesn't work, we'll have to take her to the hospital. They spent nearly an hour trying to calm Mrs. Margaret. Finally, Melissa gave her a mild sedative, and she slowly relaxed. Does this happen often? A few times a week. It's becoming more frequent. And you handle this alone? I do. I'm used to it. Michael admired Melissa's strength and patience even more. He had become desperate in just 1 hour, but she had been dealing with this regularly for years. When Mrs. Margaret was asleep, they talked in the living room. Melissa, I've been thinking a lot about all this. And I want to make some changes. I want to hire a nurse to help you, buy all the equipment she needs, make sure she gets the best possible care. Mr. Michael, that's very expensive. Money isn't an issue. I have more than I need. The problem is I didn't know how to use that money for what truly mattered, but this will completely change her routine. It might confuse her even more. Then we'll make the changes gradually, And you'll still be her primary caregiver, just with more help and resources. What if she doesn't adjust? We'll go back to how things were. What matters is her well-being. Melissa agreed reluctantly. She was used to doing everything alone and was uneasy about so many changes. There's something else, Michael continued. What? I want you to come live in my house. All of us. My home is big, there's plenty of space, and it'd be easier to care for her. Mr. Michael, I think that's too drastic. Why? Your mother is used to this environment. Moving her could be very traumatic. But this place isn't ideal for her. It has love. And for her, that's what matters most. Michael understood Melissa's point. Sometimes love was worth more than all the material comforts. Then let's improve this place. We'll adapt everything, buy what's needed, hire whoever's necessary, but keep her where she feels safe. That makes more sense. They began planning the improvements: an electric hospital bed, an adapted bathroom, monitoring equipment, a night nurse. And you, Melissa, what do you want for yourself? What do you mean? You've spent 15 years sacrificing your life. Now that you'll have more help, maybe you can think about doing something for yourself. I don't know. It's been so long since I've thought about anything but caring for her. You could go back to school, take a course, go out with friends, even date. I think I'll need time to figure that out. That night, Michael stayed over again. He was starting to understand the routine and wanted to learn how to help more. In the early hours, Mrs. Margaret woke up frightened. Help! Help! Is someone there? Michael woke up and went to her room. Mom, it's me. Everything's okay. Who are you? What are you doing in my house? I'm a friend of Melissa's. I'm here to help. Where's Melissa? She's here. Melissa appeared, still sleepy. Melissa, this man came into my room. He didn't, Mrs. Margaret. He was sleeping in the living room and heard you calling. I don't trust him. You can trust him. He's a good person. Are you sure? Absolutely. Mrs. Margaret calmed down, but kept eyeing Michael suspiciously. He looks like someone I know. Really? Like my son, but older. My Michael is still so young. Sometimes people just look alike. Yes, but the eyes are the same. My boy's eyes. Michael felt a deep emotion. Even in her confusion, his mother recognized something familiar in him. After she fell back asleep, Melissa and Michael talked in the kitchen. She said, I have the same eyes as him, as me. Sometimes she notices the resemblance, but her mind can't connect the dots. That must be so frustrating for her. It is. Imagine feeling like you know someone but not remembering how. And for you, is it hard caring for someone who sometimes doesn't recognize you? It was, at first. But I learned love doesn't depend on recognition. I care for her because I love her, not because she remembers me. Melissa's wisdom left Michael in awe. She had learned about unconditional love in a way he had never experienced. The next morning, Michael decided to stay home from work to spend the entire day observing the care routine. He watched as Melissa bathed her mother, dressed her and combed her hair. Everything was done with tenderness and respect, preserving Mrs. Margaret's dignity. Can I help? You can hand me that lotion over there. Michael passed the lotion and watched as Melissa carefully applied it to her mother's dry skin. Why is her skin like this? It's from the medication and her age. It needs moisturizing every day. And this? He pointed to some purple spots on her arms. Those are bruises. Her skin is very fragile now. Even a slight bump causes them. It must hurt. It does. That's why you have to be very careful when moving her. Michael was learning that caring for his mother was far more complex than he had imagined. Every gesture had to be deliberate, every movement gentle. During lunch, Mrs. Margaret was more lucid. Melissa, who is this young man who's always here? It's Michael, Mrs. Margaret. Your son. My son. But he's grown so much. Yes, he has. He's become a handsome man. Michael? Is it really you, my son? Yes, Mom. It's me. Oh my, how you've grown. I've missed you so much. She reached out her arms, and Michael hugged her carefully. "Mom, I've missed you too. Why did you take so long to visit me?" I was traveling, Mom. Working." "Ah, yes. You've always been such a hard worker, just like your father." "Do you remember Dad?" "Of course I do. Your father was a good man, so hard-working. He died too young, poor thing." "Do you miss him?" "I do. But I know he's proud of you wherever he is." They talked for nearly an hour. Mrs. Margaret shared stories of Michael's childhood, spoke of plans she had for the future, and asked about his life. "Are you married, my son?" "No, Mom. Not yet." "Why not?" "You're such a handsome young man." "I just haven't found the right person yet." "You need to find a good wife. Start a family. I want grandchildren." Michael glanced at Melissa, who smiled sadly. His mother didn't remember the imaginary family she had created. "I will, Mom. You'll meet your grandchildren." "That's wonderful. I'll teach them how to make those cookies you loved." "You still remember the recipe?" "Of course. A mother never forgets the things that make her children happy." But little by little, Mrs. Margaret grew confused again. Within 15 minutes, she no longer recognized Michael. "Melissa, who is this man?" "He's a friend of ours, Mrs. Margaret." "Oh, yes. He seems like a good person." The transition was quick and painful for Michael. Having his mother back for just a few minutes, only to lose her again, was an emotional torment. "How do you handle this every day?" "I've learned to cherish every good moment, no matter how small." Those 15 minutes were worth months of care. In the afternoon, the first equipment Michael had ordered arrived: an electric hospital bed, a vital signs monitor, an adapted shower chair. "Mrs. Margaret, look at this beautiful new bed." "Why are they changing my bed?" "Because this one is more comfortable, you'll like it." "But I like my old bed." "Let's try this one. If you don't like it, we'll bring the other one back." Melissa patiently explained each change, making Mrs. Margaret feel safe with the new additions. Michael watched as Melissa tested all the equipment, ensured everything worked properly, and adjusted it all to his mother's specific needs. "Do you know about medical equipment?" "I've learned. When you care for someone like this, you have to learn a little of everything. And if something breaks, I fix it myself or I call someone to repair it." That evening, the nurse Michael had hired arrived. She was an experienced woman, around 50 years old, named Dorothy. "Good evening, I'm Dorothy." "Hi, Dorothy, I'm Melissa." "Are you the primary caregiver?" "Yes, I am." "Great. I prefer working in partnership rather than replacing someone." Melissa liked Dorothy's attitude. She wasn't there to take her place, but to help. Dorothy examined Mrs. Margaret and talked with Melissa about the routine, the medications, and the patient's habits and preferences. "She's well taken care of," Dorothy remarked. "You've done an excellent job all these years." The professional recognition moved Melissa. "Thank you." "What's your work plan?" Michael asked Dorothy. "I'll be here from 8 at night until 6 in the morning. During the night, I'll monitor her vitals, give her nighttime meds, and handle any emergencies." "And during the day?" "During the day, Melissa remains in charge. But if she needs to go out or wants to rest, I can step in." The division of responsibilities seemed fair to everyone. That first night with the nurse, Melissa managed to sleep 8 hours straight for the first time in years. "How do you feel?" Michael asked the next morning. "Rested. I'd forgotten what a full night's sleep was like." "You deserve the rest. Thank you for making it possible." Over the following weeks, a new routine settled in. Melissa remained the primary caregiver during the day, but with much more support and resources. Michael began visiting them daily, sometimes early in the morning, other times during lunch, and always at night before bed. He was learning to care for his mother, observing Melissa, and practicing under her guidance. "Can you help her eat today?" "I can try." Michael picked up the spoon and offered food to his mother, who was having a confused day. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm a friend of Melissa's." "And why are you feeding me?" "Because I like helping people." "You look like my son." "Do I?" "Yes. He also has kind eyes." Michael smiled. It was the most beautiful compliment he'd received in years. As days passed, even in moments of confusion, Mrs. Margaret grew accustomed to Michael's presence. "Melissa, this young man can stay. I like him." "That's wonderful, Mrs. Margaret. He takes good care of me. He's gentle." Michael felt genuine happiness hearing that. He was learning to care with love, not just obligation. One day, while Melissa had gone shopping, Michael was alone with his mother for the first time. "Where's Melissa?" she asked. "She went to buy a few things. She'll be back soon." "And you'll stay with me?" "Yes, I will." "Good. I don't like being alone." "You'll never be alone. There will always be someone here taking care of you. Promise?" "I promise." Mrs. Margaret smiled and went back to sleep. Michael felt a peace he hadn't known in years. He was finally doing something that truly mattered. When Melissa returned, she found Michael reading a book by his mother's bedside. "How was she?" "Good. We talked a little, then she slept." "And you? How did you feel caring for her alone?" "Good. A little nervous, but good." "You're learning fast." "I have a good teacher." Just then, the doctor Michael had consulted called with new test results. "Dr. Mitchell, how are the results?" "Mr. Thompson, I need to speak with you in person. Can you come to the office tomorrow?" "Is it serious?" "I'd rather discuss it face to face." The doctor's concerned tone left Michael uneasy. "Melissa, I need to see the doctor tomorrow. Can you stay with her?" "Of course. Did something happen?" "I don't know. The doctor wants to talk about the tests." "Do you want me to come with you?" "No need, you stay with her." The next morning, Michael went to Dr. Mitchell's office, a neurologist specializing in degenerative diseases. "Mr. Thompson, we've reviewed all your mother's tests." "Well, the disease is at a more advanced stage than the previous reports indicated. She likely has no more than 6 months to live." The news hit Michael like a bomb. 6 months. Only 6 months with his mother after 15 lost years. "Are you sure?" "Unfortunately, yes. The degeneration is accelerating. Soon she'll lose the ability to swallow, to communicate, and finally, her vital functions will shut down. And there's nothing we can do. We can make her last months as comfortable as possible, but there's no cure, no treatment that can reverse the condition." Michael left the office devastated. 6 months. How would he tell Melissa? How could they make the most of this time? When he arrived at the apartment, Melissa immediately noticed something was wrong. "What did the doctor say?" Michael hesitated, then told her everything. Melissa listened in silence, tears streaming down her face. 6 months, she murmured. "Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but not much longer than that." "And you? How are you feeling?" "Devastated. I lost 15 years with her, and now I only have 6 months. Then let's make those 6 months count for 15 years. Melissa's determination amazed Michael. Even after receiving such terrible news, she was focused on making the best of it. How? By creating memories. Even if she won't remember later, we will. Let's make every day special. They decided not to tell Mrs. Margaret about the prognosis. There was no reason to frighten or confuse her further. Instead, they began planning special activities, short outings, visits from loved ones, small gatherings at home. What did she love doing when she was younger? Michael asked. She adored cooking. She also loved dancing, listening to music, and looking at flowers. We can do all of that here. They turned the apartment into an even cozier space. They bought flower vases to fill the house with color and fragrance. They installed a sound system so she could listen to her favorite music anytime. Michael also asked Melissa to teach him how to cook his mother's favorite dishes. What did she like? She loved chocolate cake, lasagna, shrimp risotto. Can you teach me? Of course. They spent an entire afternoon in the kitchen with Michael learning to cook the dishes of his childhood. Mrs. Margaret stayed in the living room, supervising and offering advice. Add more sugar to the cake, she called out. More sugar? Michael asked. She always liked things really sweet. Melissa laughed. You hear that, Mom? I'm making the cake just the way you like it. That's wonderful. My son loves chocolate cake too. Even without recognizing him, she was happy knowing she was doing something he'd enjoy. The cake turned out delicious, and Mrs. Margaret ate 2 slices. "It's just like the one I made when my Michael was little," she remarked. "Just like it?" "Exactly the same. He'd love it." Michael smiled sadly. He had loved it. But she didn't know it was him who'd made it. In the following days, they created new traditions. Music afternoons where Mrs. Margaret listened to her favorite songs and sometimes hummed along. Photo sessions where they captured special everyday moments. Michael also started recording videos of his mother telling stories, singing, or simply talking. He wanted to preserve as much of her personality as he could. "Why are you filming?" she asked one day. "To show my son how special his grandmother is." "You have a son?" "Yes, I do. And he loves hearing stories about his grandma." "That's wonderful. I'd love to meet my grandson." "One day you will." 2 weeks later, Michael had an idea. "Melissa, what if we threw her a birthday party? But her birthday isn't for another 4 months. What if we didn't wait? What if we surprised her with a party now? Do you think she'd be happy?" "I'm sure of it." They spent days organizing a small but special party. They bought balloons, cake, and gifts. They invited Mrs. Evelyn, the neighbor, and Dorothy, the nurse. On the day of the party, they decorated the apartment while Mrs. Margaret napped. When she woke up, they shouted, "Surprise!" "What's this?" she asked, startled at first. "It's a party for you," Melissa explained. "A party? But it's not my birthday." "It's just a party because we love you so much." "Really? A party just for me?" "Just for you." Mrs. Margaret beamed. She adored the colorful balloons, the decorated cake, the presents. "Can I open the gifts?" "Of course you can." Michael had bought an antique doll, just like one she'd received as a child. Melissa gave her artificial flowers so she could touch them without worrying about them wilting. "What a beautiful doll," she exclaimed, hugging it, "just like the one I had when I was a little girl." "Really? Exactly the same. How did you know?" "A little bird told us," Melissa teased. Mrs. Margaret laughed like a child. Throughout the party, she was joyful and engaged. They sang, ate cake, and took pictures. To an outsider, it looked like a normal family celebrating a special moment. "Thank you for the party," she said at the end. "It's been so long since I felt this special." "You're special every day," Michael said. "You're so kind, just like my son." That night, after Mrs. Margaret fell asleep, Michael and Melissa talked about the party. She was so happy. She really was. I hadn't seen her that excited in a long time. "We should do more things like this." "I agree. Even if she doesn't remember later, in the moment she's happy. And that's what matters." They kept creating special moments. One afternoon, Michael brought a musician to play guitar in the living room. Mrs. Margaret loved it and even requested specific songs. Another time, they had a picnic on the balcony with a blanket on the floor and special food. Mrs. Margaret said it reminded her of picnics she used to have with Michael when he was little. "We'd take sandwiches and juice and spend hours talking in the park." "What did you talk about?" "Everything. He'd tell me about school, his friends, his dreams." "What were his dreams?" "He wanted to build a big company, help people, make his mother proud." "And did he succeed?" "He did it all. My son is a successful man." "Are you proud of him?" "So proud. He's the best thing that ever happened to me." Michael stood nearby, listening. Even without recognizing him, his mother still felt proud of him. As the weeks passed, Michael noticed he was changing as a person. Caring for his mother was teaching him patience, unconditional love, and what truly mattered in life. He drastically cut back his work hours, delegating more responsibilities to his partners. His priorities had completely shifted. "You're different," Melissa remarked one day. "How so?" "Calmer, more affectionate, more present. Taking care of her is teaching me things I never knew." "What kind of things?" "That success isn't about money or status. It's about the people we love and who love us." "Your mother always knew that. That's why she was willing to disappear so she wouldn't disrupt your life." "She was wrong. She never disrupted my life. In fact, without her, my life had no meaning." A month after the diagnosis, Mrs. Margaret began showing signs that the disease was progressing. She spent more time confused, had more trouble eating, and slept longer each day. "So it's happening just as the doctor said," Melissa observed. Yes, but she's not suffering. She's comfortable, surrounded by love. That's what matters. They intensified their care. Michael learned to use all the medical equipment, prepare the special meals, and give the medications at the right times. You've become an excellent caregiver, Dorothy remarked. I learned from the best, he said, looking at Melissa. During this time, Michael also began recording videos of himself telling his mother about his life, even though he knew she would likely never see them. Mom, today I want to tell you about my company. Remember when I was little and dreamed of having a business? I made that dream come true, but now I understand that success only matters when shared with those we love. Mom, I want you to know that everything I've achieved in life is because you taught me to be determined, to work hard, and never give up on my dreams. Mom, I'm sorry it took me so long to understand what truly matters. I'm sorry for wasting so much time away from you. 3 months after the diagnosis, Mrs. Margaret had an especially difficult week. She barely ate, slept most of the day, and when she woke, she was very confused. I think the time is near, Melissa said sadly. Not yet. She's still fighting. But is she suffering? It doesn't seem so. The medications are controlling any pain. Then let's keep caring for her with love. Michael began spending nights at the apartment too. He wanted to be present for every final moment with his mother. One night, Mrs. Margaret woke up more lucid than she had been in weeks. Michael, my son, I'm here, Mom. It's so good to see you, dear. I missed you. I missed you too, Mom. Where were you? Taking care of you, Mom, always taking care of you. You're a good son, you always have been. And you've been a wonderful mother. There's something I need to tell you. What is it, Mom? I know I'll be leaving soon. Michael was surprised. She wasn't supposed to know about her condition. Mom, no need to pretend. I can feel it. My body is tired. We'll take care of you. You'll be okay. No, son. And that's all right. I'm at peace. Why are you at peace? Because you're here with me. Because I know you've become the man I always dreamed you'd be. Mom, I have to tell you something. What? I found out everything. About Melissa, about you pretending to be gone. I know it all. Mrs. Margaret smiled. I thought you might figure it out one day. You're not angry with me for taking so long to find you? Of course not. You were living your life just as I wanted. But I could have taken care of you, and you did. These last few months, you've cared for me with so much love that it made up for all the years. Mom, I love you so much. I know, son. I've always known. And I love you more than anything in the world. I'll miss you. And you'll always be with me in my heart, even when I'm gone. They talked for 2 more hours. Mrs. Margaret shared stories from his childhood, told him how proud she was, and gave him advice for the future. Take care of Melissa. She's an angel. I will, Mom. And find a good wife, have children, be happy. I'll be happy, Mom, I promise. And when you have children, tell them about the grandmother who loved them before they were even born. I'll tell them all about you. When dawn came, Mrs. Margaret was sleeping peacefully. It was the last lucid conversation they had. Over the next 2 weeks, she spent most of her time asleep. Michael and Melissa took turns by her bedside, holding her hand, talking to her, singing the songs she loved. Do you think she can hear us? Michael asked. I'm sure she can. Love always finds a way to reach the hearts of those we love. Melissa, I want to thank you. Thank me for what? For taking care of my mother all these years, for sacrificing your life for her, for teaching me what true love is. You don't need to thank me. It was a privilege to care for her. And now, what will you do next? I don't know yet. I still can't imagine life without her. You'll always have a place in my life, Melissa. You're family now. Thank you, that means so much to me. On a quiet Sunday morning, with sunlight streaming through the window and soft classical music playing, Mrs. Margaret passed peacefully in her sleep. Michael was holding one of her hands, Melissa the other. She left in peace, Melissa murmured, tears in her eyes. She left knowing she was loved, Michael added. They stayed there for a few minutes, silent, saying goodbye to that special woman who had touched their lives so deeply. The funeral was simple but filled with love. Michael made sure it was exactly as his mother would have wanted, with flowers, music, and the people who truly cared about her. Mrs. Evelyn, Dorothy, a few neighbors, and Melissa's co-workers came to pay their respects. Each had a tender story to share about Mrs. Margaret. She was a remarkable woman, Mrs. Evelyn said. Even when she was ill, she always had a kind word for everyone. "I've never seen someone cared for with so much love," Dorothy remarked. "You both did a beautiful job." During the service, Michael gave a heartfelt speech. "My mother was an extraordinary woman. She taught me about love, dedication, and sacrifice. Even when illness tried to steal her memories, it could never steal her love. And that love multiplied through Melissa, who became her daughter in heart and my sister in soul. My mother hasn't left. She's simply changed form. Now she lives in every act of kindness I learned from her, in every lesson of love Melissa taught me, in every moment of joy she gave me. Thank you, Mom, for teaching me what truly matters in life." After the burial, Michael and Melissa returned to the apartment, which now felt empty without Mrs. Margaret's presence. "What should we do with her things?" Melissa asked. "We'll keep everything with sentimental value. The rest we can donate to those in need." They spent days sorting through Mrs. Margaret's belongings. Every object held a story, every photo a memory. "Look at this." Melissa showed a box hidden in the closet. Inside were letters, dozens of them written by Mrs. Margaret over the years. "My dearest Michael," the first letter began. "Today marks 1 year since I pretended to be gone. I know it was the right decision, but my heart aches every day. I hope you're happy, that you're living your dreams. Melissa tells me you're doing well, and that brings me peace." There were letters for every year she had been gone. In each, she expressed her love for Michael, her pride in his successes, her hope for his happiness. The last letter was dated just 2 weeks before her passing. "My beloved son, if you're reading this, it means you've discovered the whole truth. Don't feel guilty for anything. Every decision I made was out of love for you. Melissa cared for me better than I could have dreamed, and in these last months you gave me the joy of being cared for by my own son. I ask for nothing more from life. You've made me the happiest mother in the world. Take care of Melissa. She deserves all the love I can no longer give. Be happy, my son. That is my last and greatest wish." Michael wept as he read the letter. Even in passing, his mother was still caring for him, still worrying about his happiness. In the weeks that followed, Michael helped Melissa rebuild her life. He paid for her nursing course so she could have a formal career, helped her find a better apartment, and made sure she would never struggle again. "You don't have to do all this," she protested. "Yes, I do. My mother asked me to take care of you." "But you've already done so much. Melissa, you saved my mother. You saved me too. It will never be too much." Michael had also completely changed his life. He sold his company to his partners and created a foundation to care for underprivileged seniors. The foundation was named the Margaret Thompson Foundation, in honor of his mother. "Your mother would be proud," Melissa said when he told her about the foundation. "I hope so. It's my way of repaying all the love she gave me." The foundation grew quickly. Michael used all his business experience to create an efficient home care system for seniors who couldn't afford it. Melissa became the foundation's caregiver coordinator, training others with the same love and dedication she had shown Mrs. Margaret. "You're teaching others to care with love," Michael remarked one day. "It's what your mother would have wanted, for love to multiply. And it's working. We're already helping 50 families. Each family has a different story, but they all need the same thing: love and care." A year after Mrs. Margaret's passing, Michael was visiting one of the families supported by the foundation when he met Sarah, a nurse who had lost her parents young and dedicated her life to caring for seniors. "Why did you choose to work with the elderly?" he asked. "Because they have so many stories to tell, so much love to give, and because I lost my parents early. I know how important it is to have someone who cares. That's exactly why we created this foundation." Gradually, Michael and Sarah got to know each other better. She shared the same values he had learned from his mother: compassion, dedication, love for others. "Your mother would be happy to know you found someone special," Melissa said when Michael told her about Sarah. You think so? I'm sure. She always said she wanted you to be happy and build a family. What about you? Have you thought about starting your own family? I'm dating one of the doctors at the foundation. He's a widower with 2 young children. We're thinking of marrying next year. That's wonderful. Our mother would be so happy. Our mother. Yes. She taught me family isn't just blood. It's those who care for us with love. You're my sister in heart, Melissa. And you're my brother in soul, Michael. 2 years after Mrs. Margaret's passing, Michael and Sarah married. The ceremony was simple, but full of meaning. Melissa was the matron of honor, representing the family they had built through love and care. During the ceremony, Michael gave a heartfelt speech. Sarah, when my mother passed, she told me to find a good woman and be happy. In you, I found not just a wife, but a partner who shares the same values she taught me. Together, we'll keep multiplying the love she planted in my heart. She's here with us, Sarah whispered. She is, in every act of love, in every moment of care, in every bit of happiness. 3 years later, Michael and Sarah welcomed their first child, named Ethan, after the boy from the first story Michael had written, but also in honor of the angel his mother had been in his life. Would you like to hold him? Michael offered the baby to Melissa. May I? Of course. Your Aunt Ethan. Melissa cradled the baby with the same tenderness she had shown Mrs. Margaret. Hello, Ethan. Your grandmother would have loved you so much. He'll know all her stories, Michael promised. And he'll grow up knowing she loved him even before he was born. The foundation kept growing. In 5 years, it was helping over 500 families, training hundreds of caregivers, and had become a model for compassionate home care. Your mother created an immense legacy, Sarah remarked one day, watching Michael work at the foundation. Actually, Melissa created the legacy. My mother just planted the seed. And you turned that seed into a forest. We did. You, me, Melissa, and everyone who works here. We're a family united by love. On the 5th anniversary of Mrs. Margaret's passing, they organized a celebration at the foundation. It wasn't a somber event, but a joyful gathering to honor the life and love she had spread. Today, we're not celebrating Mrs. Margaret's departure, but the love she left as her legacy, Michael said to everyone present. Every person we care for here carries a piece of the love she taught me. Every family we help receives a bit of the kindness Melissa showed me. Every caregiver we train carries forward the dedication they both instilled in me. Love never dies, Melissa added. It only transforms, multiplies, and finds new ways to express itself. And that's what we do here every day, Sarah continued. We turn love into care, care into dignity, and dignity into hope. Among the guests at the celebration was Mrs. Evelyn, now nearly 80, who had moved into one of the foundation's assisted living homes. You know Mrs. Margaret would be proud, right? She said. She always said Michael had a good heart. He just needed to learn how to use it. And we did, Michael smiled, thanks to her and Melissa. And now you're teaching others to do the same. During the celebration, they released a book compiling all the letters Mrs. Margaret had written over the years, along with testimonies from those helped by the foundation. The book was titled Letters of Love and Care, A Mother's Legacy. This book will help other families going through similar struggles, Melissa explained. It will show that love finds ways to express itself even in the hardest times. And it will also show that caring for those we love isn't a sacrifice, it's a privilege, Michael added. That evening, Michael, Sarah, Melissa, and Ethan visited Mrs. Margaret's grave. They brought fresh flowers and a photo of the foundation. Look, Mom, what your love built, Michael said to the headstone. Hundreds of families cared for with love, hundreds of people learning to care with kindness, hundreds of love stories written every day. Thank you for teaching me that family is those who care for us with love, Melissa added. For giving me a son and a daughter-in-law I love as my own. For giving me a beautiful grandson who'll grow up knowing your stories. Thank you for teaching us that true success is measured by the love we leave in the world, Sarah said. For showing us that caring for one another is what makes us truly human. Baby Ethan, as if understanding the moment's significance, reached his tiny hands toward the flowers, making everyone smile. He's blessing his grandmother, Michael laughed, tears in his eyes. And she's blessing him too, Melissa observed. All of us. When they returned home that night, they sat in the living room to discuss the future. The foundation needs to expand, Sarah said. So many families need help. I agree, Melissa said, but we must maintain the quality of care. Growing means nothing if we lose the heart of what we do. Which is caring with love, Michael finished. Exactly. Every person we help should feel special, important, and loved. Like your mother felt, Sarah noted. Like we all feel now, Melissa smiled. They began planning the foundation's expansion to other cities. The model would always follow the same philosophy: compassionate care, rooted in love and respect for each person's dignity. Let's create a national care network, Michael dreamed aloud. A network where every caregiver is trained not just technically but emotionally, Melissa added. Where every family feels welcomed and supported, Sarah completed, and where every senior feels loved and valued. 2 years later, the foundation was already present in 10 Brazilian cities. The impact was immeasurable. Thousands of families served, thousands of caregivers trained, thousands of stories of love and care being written daily. Michael had become a national reference in compassionate care, but he always made sure to credit everything to his mother and Melissa. You turned our pain into purpose, he said during a national lecture on senior care. And our love into action, Melissa added, who was now one of the country's leading speakers on compassionate care. You showed that one person can change the lives of thousands when they act with true love. Ethan, now 3 years old, always accompanied his parents in the foundation's activities. He played with the seniors, handed out smiles, and already showed the same compassion that characterized his family. He'll grow up knowing that caring for one another is normal, Sarah observed. He'll grow up with the same values his grandmother taught me, Michael smiled, and he'll carry on this legacy when he's older. On one of the most special days in the foundation's history, they welcomed a very unique family. A young caregiver had discovered that the senior she was caring for was actually her grandfather, whom she had lost contact with many years earlier. It's just like our story, Melissa said emotionally. Love finds ways to bring people together, Michael agreed, and to heal wounds that seemed unhealable. They helped that family reunite, offering emotional support and specialized care. It was as if Mrs. Margaret's story was repeating itself, but with a different ending from the start. Your mother is still caring for people through us, Sarah noted, and she'll keep caring through everyone who learned from her. That's just how love is, Melissa reflected. It never ends, it just transforms. On the 10th anniversary of Mrs. Margaret's passing, they organized the biggest event in the foundation's history. They gathered all the families they'd served, all the trained caregivers, all the volunteers and supporters. It was a true celebration of gratitude and love. Mrs. Margaret never imagined her final act of love would become all this. Michael addressed the crowd of over 1,000 people. She just did what all mothers do, loved unconditionally, Melissa added. And that unconditional love multiplied until it reached every one of you. During the event, they launched a new initiative, the University of Care, where not only caregivers would be trained, but families would also learn to care for their loved ones with love and skill. We're going to democratize knowledge about care, Sarah explained, so no family has to go through what we did alone, and so every senior receives the care they deserve. Ethan, now 8 years old, took the stage and gave a speech that moved everyone. My grandmother Margaret taught me even before I was born that caring for the people we love is the most important thing in the world. She cared for my dad, Aunt Melissa cared for her, my dad and Mom care for everyone here, and I'm going to learn to care too. Because when we care with love, everyone becomes happier. The audience stood, applauding the wisdom of a child who had learned life's most important lessons. He gets it, Michael whispered to Sarah, tears in his eyes. Your mother managed to teach one more generation, and he'll teach the next. That night, after all the guests had left, the family gathered in the old apartment where everything had begun. It was now a memorial for the foundation, preserved exactly as it was when Mrs. Margaret lived there. This is where it all started, Michael said, looking around. with a woman who loved her son so much that she was willing to fake her own departure, and with another woman who loved a stranger so deeply that she dedicated 15 years of her life to caring for her, and with a man who learned that true success is measured by the love we leave in the world. Ethan ran through the apartment, exploring every corner with curiosity. "Dad, is this where Grandma lived?" "Yes, son." "Was she happy here?" "Very happy, because she had love." "And now she's in heaven, right?" "She's in heaven, but she's also here with us. In every person we help, in every smile we bring, in every moment of kindness we offer." "I get it. She's in everything we do with love." "Exactly, my son. Exactly." When they left the apartment that night, a sense of peace washed over everyone. The story that had begun with pain and separation had transformed into a saga of love, care, and purpose. "Thank you, Mom," Michael murmured, looking up at the starry sky, "for teaching me that life is only worth living when filled with love." "Thank you, Mrs. Margaret," Melissa added, "for giving me a family I never had." "Thank you for teaching us that caring is the purest form of love," Sarah finished. "And thank you for giving me the best parents in the world," Ethan shouted to the sky, making everyone laugh. As they walked through the city streets, they passed several elderly people being cared for by professionals trained by the foundation. On every corner, a story of love and care was being written. "Look at what your mother created," Sarah said to Michael. "An entire city taking care of one another, whole families learning to show love through care, and future generations growing up knowing that caring is normal, necessary, and beautiful." On their way home, they stopped at a square where a statue stood in honor of Mrs. Margaret. It depicted a smiling woman with open arms, as if blessing everyone. At the base of the statue, it read, "Margaret Thompson, a mother whose love transformed an entire city." "She did it," Michael said, touching the statue. "Did what?" Ethan asked. "Made sure her love would last forever." "And will it really last, Dad?" "Yes, son. Because true love never dies. It just transforms and multiplies." "Like the seeds we plant in the garden?" "Exactly like the seeds. Your grandmother planted seeds of love, and now the whole city is a garden." "That's so cool. I want to plant love seeds too." "You already are, my son. Every time you're kind, every time you help someone, every time you show love, you're planting a little seed. And will they grow into more flowers?" "They'll grow into more flowers, more trees, more gardens, and one day the whole city will be a giant garden of love." Ethan smiled, satisfied with the explanation. "Grandma was really smart, wasn't she?" "She was the wisest woman I ever knew. And Aunt Melissa is really smart too." "Yes. She learned from your grandmother and taught me everything. And you taught me too. And you'll teach your children when you grow up." "I will. I'll tell everyone the story of Grandma Margaret. That way, her love will never end." When they got home, they sat on the porch to watch the stars. Ethan soon fell asleep in his father's arms, tired after such a special day. "He'll carry on this legacy," Sarah whispered. "I'm sure he will," Melissa agreed. "He has his grandmother's kindness. And he'll spread love wherever he goes, just like your mother taught." Michael looked at his sleeping son, then at his wife and Melissa. 3 generations united by the love a special woman had planted. "You know what amazes me the most?" he said softly. "What?" "How a decision made out of love, my mother pretending she had passed away, created so much multiplied love." "Love always generates more love," Melissa mused. "It's the only thing in the world that grows when we share it." "And your mother shared so much love that it no longer fits in just one family," Sarah observed. "It had to spread across an entire city, an entire country. And it will spread even further." They stood there in silence, gazing at the stars and reflecting on the extraordinary journey they had lived. From a painful discovery, finding the mother who had pretended to be dead, had emerged a story of love, forgiveness, care, and purpose that was transforming thousands of lives. "Your mother achieved every mother's dream," Sarah said. "What dream?" To see her child happy and fulfilled, knowing he would leave the world better than he found it. And she achieved that even after leaving. She achieved it because of how she left, with love, with dignity, surrounded by those she loved. Michael smiled, feeling a deep peace in his heart. "Thank you, Mom," he whispered to the stars, "for teaching me that love is the only thing that truly matters in life." A gentle breeze rustled the trees in the garden, like a tender reply from the heavens. The end of the story. Dear listener, now tell us what you thought of this story. Do you believe Michael made the right decisions? What moved you most in this family's journey? Share your reflections with us. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories.